Working with
25% increase everywhere.
Every basic ability, skill, and talent can be developed through hard work, good strategies, persistence, dedication, and input from others. Where focus goes, energy flows. So focus your energy on continuous learning and stop wasting time thinking about looking smart. Build resistance, build vulnerability, build courageousness, and face adversity with a smile. Become comfortable with uncomfortable. You know, the only person that you need to prove anything to is you. Imperfect action trumps perfect inaction. Stop wasting time and get on with it. Failure is part of learning, so start learning by taking action.
Christian Lavolsi, welcome to the hot seat from the other side of the world. How are you?
I'm good, actually. It's like I said to you earlier, it's a bit of chaos in here. There's a group of people that are still up partying from last night, and they're making a bit of a ruckus down the other end of the very gigantic lounge in this beautiful property that we're staying at. But we'll see how we go. Hopefully, hopefully it's either the internet that's going to be the problem. Hopefully there's no
Yes,
problem, but it could be the internet or it could be loud Irish people.
100%. So you have been in Europe for, well, just short of a week now because you had a long trip to get over there. How has your experience been so far, catching up with clients and doing some other sightseeing and adventurous things?
Actually, it's been really good. I mean, yeah, as you know, I took the family with me, so that's always an adventure. It's actually been pretty good. They've been, you know, they're 6 and 9. They're going to be 6 and 9. There's only so much they can be in either the same car or the same hotel room or the same, 50-meter vicinity of one another before they have brother and sister arguments. Um, but I think I'm actually being quite calm by Lucy's admission, whereas she's being a little bit more restless. Um, Obviously, I love being with them, but it's challenging. And this clients have been great. Caught up with a handful of people and have actually ran a couple of presentations last week, um, and that was really cool. And we're seeing really good results of that immediately. I still think that there's no substitute for being live anywhere. Um,
Mm,
I know, yeah, and I think there's wonderful benefits of technology, but when you're in a room, you are able to just get just different energy, Simone, and get different buy-in. And so, yeah, that's been significant. And I think one of the cool things I'm going to be writing at the moment, well, I started writing it was a case study on the difference between a live presentation and a video presentation for a lot of our international clients, because it's a significant cost flying someone over, um, but because our client base is growing internationally significantly, you know, I can do a trip to Europe and see 5, 6 clients, and they share the cost. So
mm.
that's a huge advantage, but it's more the impact. I mean, just here in Ireland, 24% increase in sales for one client by having
Yeah.
a 2.5 hour presentation with me. That's it was like 5x the ROI, and then working with their leadership team. So you start adding the maths up, and you think, oh shit, that's actually pretty good. But it's whether or not I want to do it. That's what it
Yeah.
really comes down to.
Very, very
36
long
hours
trip.
of
And then
travel.
if you
Oh,
add in, yes, all of the delays and everything else you had, it was it was no luxurious holiday to get over there.
no, and I mean, and also I got a message from BA this morning that our flight to London, because we're flying to London today, um, is potentially delayed due to adverse weather. And then
Hmm.
I've got someone I know who's on QF2, which is the flight that we're coming back on in about 2 weeks' time, and their flight has been pushed back from 8:45 departure, as in night time, to 10 a.m. the
Hmm.
following day.
Oh no.
And it's like, I'm thinking, oh, please don't. In one way, I'm like, oh, let that be us when we come back from Paris, so we get a good night's sleep. And then the other one is no, a daytime flight back, that could be torture for the children. So, or for me. Um, so yeah, anyway. But look, it's been amazing. I mean,
Yes.
Ireland is so beautiful. Anyone who hasn't been to Ireland and you're planning a European trip, do not bypass the Emerald Island. It is so beautiful. It's
Mm.
green, it's lush, and don't just hang around in Viking City, Dublin. Like get out. Um, and go out to places like Nice where we are, or Kildare, or Cork. Um, it truly will blow your mind. Like it is just. I mean, our children. What did my son say to me? He goes, "Why is it that you old people?" That's exactly what he said to me. I was like, "Why is you old people like all these things like green stuff?" And I just looked at him. Oh my god, I've become one of those people. Um, but I think you learn to appreciate outside of the concrete jungle.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, we went to the Irish Stud yesterday, the National Irish
Mm.
Stud. So basically, the Irish government funds a stud farm. They're all called stud farms, right? But they're billion-dollar businesses, right? This thing was gigantic. We saw all the foals being born. We got the history of all the famous stallions that are there just breeding. The men here are quite funny. They have lots of funny jokes. And one of them yesterday was, if you come back incarnated, you want to become reincarnated. You want to come back as a stallion, but you want to come back as a stallion, a thoroughbred racehorse who's super quick in the first 2 or 3 races. You won't win much prize money, but you'll get 150 women mares every week. And I just could it was like, oh my god, there's children here, right? And I didn't know that basically the thoroughbreds, the top horses, if they're really super super fast when they're young, um, then they're the ones that get marked for breeding. Whereas the greatest racehorses generally don't, because what they've done is they chop their bobbles off, and then they can run for 10 years. And it's like, right, my poor doggy Louis, pure breed without any balls. But anyway, I digress. But it's been quite yeah, it's been really. I mean, it was spectacular to learn. There's like one racehorse where you there was worth, sorry, a thoroughbred that was worth like $2 billion just because of the
Wow.
babies it produces, and now you're paying
Mm.
300,000 euros to have a shot, and it's like, are you shitting me? And it was just, and watching these beautiful horses. I mean, they are the mares, and we went through all the where the birthing suites are, where everything is. I mean, just brilliant. And then we did this is fun, and there are photos of this. Then they have like a race experience. So
Yep.
you put this tablet on, you walk through, you learn all this. It's very interactive, and then you have to train a horse, and you have to go into the buying room, buy the horse, and guess who won? Number one.
Of
My
course.
horse is vintage crop. I bought him at an auction. He was a filly, and then yeah, he was. There was a massive weight restriction, but to get on the actual saddle to ride, and everyone's looking at me. I'm like, okay, right, I'm just not going to tell anyone. And so I squatted on this mechanical horse, and I was like, that's my leg workout. And then so a friend of our son, he came second. My son came third, and then Jamie, who's super competitive, came fifth. So I kept rubbing it in his face. I'm pretty sure Lucy came sixth or seventh. So Lavender came fourth, actually. So she was pretty pumped. And then I put the boys were being all weird and naughty as they are, paying her out. So I gave her my number one. And to get on the podium, and my son was like, "What? That's
Ah,
your sister." So no, but that was really cool. And Lucy's just looking at me, going, "Of course you won. You're
yeah, of
so
course.
competitive." And then also the day before we went and played some mini golf or crazy golf as it's called here. And Jamie's a borderline pro golfer, and he's obviously trained famous Masters winner golfers, and we're playing, and I'm winning the whole way, and then hail came, and I'm like, mate, it's hailing, it's hailing, it proper hailed on my bald head, and that hurts, right? I don't know if anyone's had hail hit their head, and I'm like, okay, dude, we've got 2 holes to go, like that's it. He goes, nah. I said, so you want me to play through hail so you can actually not lose to me?
Win,
And I
yeah.
was like, oh my god. So
You need to get one of those
uh,
golfing hats. Where was your
oh,
hat?
I needed a lot more than that. And so anyway, we wrapped that up, and then it's like I missed the shot. Like as in we parred, we went back to even numbers again. He was all happy, so we went, and then they've got this weird last hole that he's played 10 times at least, and
Yeah.
it's in a castle, and the ball has to then go down, but it's like 10 meters up in the air, and I'm like, oh no, I can't miss this. I'm never going to hear the end of this, and I got it, and we drew, and so
Oh,
I'm walking
wow.
around going, I almost beat the member from Port McConaughey, and everyone's just laughing because all these other strangers were just because Port McConaughey is one of the most famous golf courses, and he's obviously a member there, and it was just so funny. He's like, "You are horrible. I'm horrible. You made me lose in hail, right? That is awful." And no, but we've had an amazing time, and our children are having a great time. So thank you.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I'm not surprised that the competitiveness is coming out between you and your client, Jamie, as well. So, all right, well, let's get into today's hot seat episode. I wanted to talk to you today about imposter syndrome and all about those kinds of things. It's quite funny. We've just been talking about competitiveness and things like that, because I think it flows in quite nicely to that. So, I wanted to ask you, Christian, for my first question today. What is your definition of imposter syndrome?
Oh, yeah, imposter syndrome. I mean, obviously, I filmed a really cool podcast on this. She's about 5 years ago, I think. And actually, uh, that podcast led to me working with 2 really amazing women who are still clients of mine today, who run incredibly large businesses now. Imposter syndrome, as a definition for me, Simone, is actually the pervasive feeling of self doubt. It's that insecurity or even that fraudulence, despite often overwhelming evidence of someone's own skills, own accomplishments, and just general competence. Right? It typically affects um, high achievers who find it difficult to accept their own success, um, and also they find it hard to attribute their achievements to luck or timing rather than their own ability and hard work. So, you know, um, the psychological phenomenon that can lead to this significant stress and is marked by that internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. Right? Now, especially this is
Mm.
among professionals stepping into new roles or tackling challenging projects. I know that when I got appointed adjunct professor at a Sandstone University, a GR8 university, and then became the entrepreneur in resident of that same university. Even after initially when I got the job, I thought, oh my God, what am I doing here hanging out with all these really smart people, all these professors? And it freaked me out. And I had to go and get some real help. And that's the first time, I spoke to some of the professors there, and they're like, Christian, you're experiencing imposter syndrome. I said, what the hell is that? I'm not an imposter. And then I'm the real McCoy. And in my head, and I'm like, oh my God, this is a real thing. I thought this was all bullshit. And so I went and got I went and had some really good chats with organizational psychologists within the university. And I really started unpacking it. And that's when I created that podcast about 6 months later, when I realized it was a real thing for a lot of people. And the more of our clients that I meet, one of the biggest things they come to us for is me breaking that imposter for them. And I mean, we've got
Mm.
lots of psychologists on our books. We've got lots of people, doctors, and then they all have it, and it's quite bizarre and this is, I think, one of the biggest things about being a cheerleader, that understands the science and the psychology behind it. We're able to break it, and look, to think that at the end of that first year, working in that university role, just to give you an example, we helped 66 startups raise $189 million to date. I'm pretty sure it's still the most successful incubator ever created in Australian history, and if not in the top 10 in the world. And even after that monumental win, it was still all of us, not just me and my team. We still questioned. I mean, my team less, but they were more like, "Hey, Christian, why do you still second guess your ability?" And I think what it is it's we don't often want to accept what our true talents are. And for me, I think the dealing with this notion that I'm some kind of spiritual cheerleader is really
Mm.
bizarre. It still is bizarre today. That I have the ability to shift someone from a rather negative state into an exceptionally positive state that helps them get results. But I don't have any training in order to do that. And so because I don't have the training, even though I've read tons of books now, and sought a lot of help for myself, you still question it. And that's really the deepness of imposter syndrome. It's
Mm.
um, and it's good. It's not a bad thing as long as you're aware of it and you're able to manifest out of it and work your way out of it. And a lot of people that are imposters are incredibly smart because, and that's not me putting a ticket on myself. I'm not one of those people. I have to do the work. But it's they're incredibly smart because they constantly are doing more work in order to stay
Yeah.
on top. But you've got to make sure it's a fine balance between you know having just a ridiculous attitude to it and just sometimes just accepting it. And often, what will actually help you is having someone in your corner who understands it, understands you, and is able to support you through it, and make sure that they keep you on track. And the big question then is, what is that worth? High
Yeah.
performance coaches are out there. And I'm in the same circle as one of them, who I won't mention today, who coaches Cristiano Ronaldo,
Mm.
and it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just them cheerleading, using psychology though, and behavioural change techniques in order to keep these really super high athletes performing at these these incredibly high standards without burnout, right? Which is really important. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's my
Mm.
abbreviated and life experienced definition of imposter syndrome.
Yeah, okay. So my second question really leads in off of that. Is is syndrome something you identify within yourself, or is it generally highlighted to you by someone around you that's like, hey, you're saying these things, or I'm noticing this behavior. You need to dig into this, or is this an awareness piece for yourself?
Oh, I think you've answered the question in three answers. I
Mm,
think the key is it's all of those, right? But
yeah.
identifying if you're experiencing imposter syndrome involves reflection on certain feelings and behaviours that are common amongst those that suffer from it. And I guess that there are some key things to look for, Simone. So maybe I'll
Mm,
just and this is from my experience. Okay, um, uh, if you're doubting your abilities and you're feeling like you don't deserve your success, despite clear evidence of your competence, then that's a flag. Okay,
mm,
as I said earlier, with my example of the university, and keep in mind that pre the university I had 65 of my own ventures, and five were incredibly successful exits. Right,
mm,
you know, but I kept looking at the things that I'd failed at, and there was about 30 failures in there too. So, you kind of look at that, but it's about that self-reflection. You know how important I think self-reflection is. I mean, it's
yeah.
probably the biggest thing that I teach all the time is journaling. I mean, I teach my children to journal every single day. Another thing is consistently attributing your achievements to luck, timing, or even other external reasons rather than your own effort and skills. Um, I do that a bit, but less so now. Now and a lot of people use the excuse that if I attribute the success to me, I'm going to look like some arrogant prick. Well, I'll give you a little secret. I'm hanging around with some seriously successful people at the moment in my coaching circle and outside of my own clients. I'm within my own inner circle. And these guys, there is absolutely zero arrogance in the room. But if any external person walked into the room, they think we're all arrogant. And
Mm.
it's the most, and I'm finally at home. You've seen me, right? Like you could see, like I finally found my own tribe. And I mean, these are crazy successful people. Like they're doing
Mm.
$500,000 a year in revenue in coaching businesses, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's SaaS companies, whether it's Dan Martell, right?
Mm.
There's a name, right? Whether it's Todd Herman, whether it's Ryan Dees, these are pretty significant players who have had tremendous success, but
Mm.
they don't doubt themselves. They don't attribute their
Yeah.
success to luck or timing. Yes,
Yeah.
there's always an element of luck. Jim Collins calls them luck events, but he himself admits that they're not luck. You have to put
Hmm.
yourself in those situations in order for you have to make decisions to get to that situation to have that luck event. And for a long time, I used to just, attribute everything to luck and timing. What I say forward facing and what I feel internally are two very different things. Not anymore, right? So there's a
Mm.
fine balance, and and I think a lot of the time you got to be careful of the externalities that you're around. You are the sum of the five people you hang out with most of the time. So please choose wisely who you hang out with. And if you're hanging out with negative people, fuck them off. That's just the
Yeah.
fastest way of me.
It's really
It's
interesting, isn't it?
really
I think
important.
this is coming into those terminologies and things we hear about of the herd mentality of, when you start to get successful and you draw away from the herd, and then, and the other one of the tall poppy syndrome, like, how dare you flourish? Let's chop you down, that kind of stuff. And my sort of thoughts around imposter syndrome is are they the notions that make us feel like we can't elevate to that next level because someone's going to bring us back down, or we need to stay with the herd, or whatever analogy you want to use. I just wonder if it's a
Yeah,
part of that as well.
yeah. Look, it's all of those things, Simone. I mean,
Mm.
another thing that often is a flag for people is that fear of being exposed. Okay, so a lot of people that suffer from imposter syndrome have this deep inner fear. So they live with this nagging worry that others will eventually discover that they're not
Mm.
as knowledgeable or competent as they think. Um, to me, I still get some of that sometimes, and I read a book a week,
Mm. Yeah.
right? And and by not just my own admission, by the admission of others, you guys in our team, I have a gift where I remember stuff. So I can read a book, and because I apply immediately into practice, whether it's in our own business or whether into the business of our clients, I then remember that, and I can teach it over and over and
Mm.
over again. And yet I still question whether or not I actually know all this stuff, or is it just because I've read it? Well, no, you've read it, you know it, you're practicing it, you're making it work. So it's just that's another flag. And again, I'm highlighting that I have gone and done lots of work in this area, but I still know about it, and I still know that I have this internalized fear. The ultimate is the results speak for themselves, and that's what you've got to always reflect back on. The other thing is,
Yeah.
it's funny when I was just as I've been thinking about it. If you're pushing yourself to work harder and harder to measure up, but never feel satisfied with what you achieve, that's a huge flag. And I'm
Mm.
laughing because that's me. And again, it's funny. We often are a reflection of what we want to be teaching in order to be able to overcome what it is that we do. And but to me, I'm just so hungry, right? Like I have such high standards that I'm constantly, and I have to remind myself that I have to celebrate, because if I don't
Yeah.
celebrate, then I just keep going and I keep going at 100 miles an hour. So if you and this is the big flag for a lot of people. If this is you, then reach out to us and let's have a chat about how we can give you some resources and bits and pieces to overcome it. But and this is why I love working with high achievers, because I know them. I am one of them, and I have the same feelings. I'm not some guru. I have the same challenges that I've had to overcome years and years and years over and over again. Um, one that one flag that if you are doing this, you probably should get some help is sabotaging your own success.
Mm.
Procrastinating or messing up opportunities because of the fear that you won't meet the expectations. Uh, a lot of my a lot of my failures that came later in my career, after the big catastrophic failure, was as I was rebuilding, I would intentionally sabotage my own success because
Mm.
the imposter would come out. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but when I discovered what imposter syndrome was, upon my further reflections, and that is why I would comfortably be able to say now that I have not had any failures for at least 5.5, 6 years. Because as
Mm.
soon as I uncovered what I was doing and that I had this thing called imposter syndrome, I was able to work through the self-sabotaging process that I was, putting myself in. And self-sabotage doesn't mean you
Okay.
just go and cook up an opportunity. I mean, for me, I would go out and I would belt myself after a massive result a week, and drink 3 bottles of Dom Perignon, a bottle of Patron, have the biggest party in the world, make myself feel like I was the king, and over time that just leads into different behavior types that you don't really want to bring into work and in your own life, and so you begin to make mistakes because you're doing it on purpose. You're pushing the
Yeah.
boundaries. I mean, I go back and look at 10 years ago, well, now longer, I always say 10, but 2013. So we'll say 11 years ago, when I got arrested, and I was in a rebuilding cycle, and I had rebuilt a mega business, like mega businesses,
Mm.
like $30 million businesses after 3 years of, pretty much losing everything or having to sell everything off in order to survive, and not sleep in the back of a car. But the the challenge around that is, once you're aware, that's when you can make the changes, and that's what the real thing with imposter syndrome is. So please,
Yeah. Okay.
if you're self sabotaging, just make sure you stop and reflect and get help from people, because you're deep down you're a fucking genius, and
Yeah.
you shouldn't put yourself in a situation where you're killing all the work that you do, right? So, and then just one thing,
Mm.
last thing, um, you know, uh, brushing off compliments and feeling uncomfortable with praise uh, because you believe you're not deserving, that's a big flag. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Simone's laughing
I
because
think so.
looking at
I
me.
am laughing because I can resonate with so much of this. And I remember someone telling me, oh, that's fabulous, you did this and that. And I'm like, that's just me. That's just what I do. Like, it's nothing special. It's just who I am.
Yeah.
And in return to me making that comment, I was told that I was actually insulting the person that was giving me the compliment by not receiving it. So that was really interesting from a perspective to go, by not just saying thank you and accepting something, you're actually, not only are you doing a detriment to yourself, but you're offending other people at the same time. And I've never really thought about it like that. I wanted to move into the third question I have for you today, Christian, and that is, what can you really do to overcome the feelings of being an imposter or those thoughts? And you mentioned before that you sought help, and it was about conversations and building habits for yourself around reflection. Is is that where you start? If you know that you're an imposter, where do you go to start on this journey?
Look, uh, caveat: I'm not a qualified, trained psychologist or mental health
This is
practitioner,
purely
so
your
this is
experiences.
this is
Yeah.
this is purely my experience. I think it's important to note that people will often say, "Oh, well, you said that." Well, hang on, this is from my own personal experience. Which, by the way, I think there's significant value from people that are prepared to share what they went through, and especially someone like me who invests a shitload of time and money when I identify that there is a problem, because that's what I do. I solve problems, and so I think the first thing is that over, overcoming imposter syndrome is a life journey. I don't think it's something you just
Mm.
do. I mean, clearly, hopefully, I'm being able to represent that by sharing my story, and I'm still going through, very small amounts of it now. Um, so what it does, it's a mix of self-awareness, changing thought patterns, as well as practical strategies. So some of the ones that you need um, to start is you actually have to acknowledge your feelings. Okay.
Mm.
That sounds really easy when you say it, but it's actually really hard. So You got to recognize and accept that these feelings of inadequacy that are present, right? You got to actually acknowledge that they exist, right? And acknowledge those is the step towards change. Then you've got to talk about those thoughts and feelings with trusted friends, mentors, colleagues, professionals. And often you find that others have similar experiences which can normalize what you're going through. Now, if you think of what I said at the beginning of this hot seat, that's what it did for me. Going to speak to professors and organizational therapists and behavior people that focus on this, it normalized it for me. I looked at all these people that were also professors uh, and were vice chancellors of universities, and I'm having these conversations with them, and they normalized it for me. All of a sudden, I felt like I was like, okay, I'm not the only person feeling this, but then I'm obviously a bit different to most people. I just don't accept that that's the way it's going to be. That's the
Yeah.
entrepreneur in me. And so I then go, okay, I'm going to go and find out how to actually unpack this. So often, that's the normalization is really important. So then you look at it and you say, okay, well, what I did is I started, and what I got taught to do was to write down all my accomplishments and the skills that I have or had in order to achieve all of those accomplishments. And you then review that list, and that will actually help you internalize your successes. Now, this had a slight adverse effect when I did this because I have achieved so much. And I never actually sat down long enough to assess how much I'd achieved. And so it was incredibly frightening when I looked at my life journey exercise and it went for 23 pages. Okay? And even this the organization behavior psychologist I was working with, she was left rather blown away at how severe my imposter syndrome really was, considering this exercise. And that brought a lot of different emotion to us. So just be really careful. If you're going to do this shit on your own and you're a significant high achiever, you want to have some help around you, right? Because for me, it brought up all this other shit, right? And
Yeah.
why I didn't acknowledge it, why I didn't feel it. I mean, most people go through life, even really successful people, and their rap sheet is one page. My rap sheet was 23 pages long, and I probably omitted another 10.
Yeah.
And that's because of all that imposter syndrome. You don't have to be successful. To be successful, you don't have to have done a lot. You've just got to be on the right path. Someone like me, where I was self-sabotaging everything in my life because of all this other stuff, it was a really traumatic experience. And so I was able to unpack that. And I'm not sure I want to go much deeper into this because we're going to run out of time. But I think the other thing is then what I did is I had to learn to reframe my thoughts. Okay, so I had to challenge the negative thoughts that fueled that imposter syndrome. And then what you do is when you catch yourself doubting your self-worth or doubting your worth as well, question the validity of those thoughts and replace them with a more accurate, constructive thought. Okay, and so this is where some people, when they don't know me, think I'm quite arrogant. And because what they don't realize is that I've had to build that persona. And now, as you know, we're trying to unbreak that, right?
Yeah.
To make me more approachable. But if you were in our inner circle um, and you work with us, you see a very different side of me, is what everyone now says. And a lot of that is because I've had to tell myself and reframe myself so many times to get to where I am that I've adopted a persona. And so sometimes I get on stage, but then at the same time, I'm also overwhelmed by the imposter syndrome at the same time, that then I have to, make bigger statements or talk more about myself when actually I don't. I'm already fucking famous. So again, it's like I'm still fighting this battle, right? And so
Yeah.
it is a constant challenge. Like for me, this is a huge challenge and one that affects everything. But again, because I'm able to talk about it and work on it, like already now I've got pen and paper next to me. I've already written some extra notes of like, okay, I just said that. Why did I say that? How am I going to reframe that? How am I going to, now that I'm acutely aware of that, why am I not changing my behavior? So I'm constantly working on this stuff. And, and again, I seek professional help at every step of the way. right? So if you're feeling deeply rooted with imposter syndrome, then don't just sit here and listen to this. This is the initiation of your transformation. Go and seek some help from whether it's a counselor, a therapist, a doctor, and unpack that, right? But one thing you need to do is stop comparing yourself to other people. Okay, so one of the biggest things is you got to focus on your own goals and your own achievements, and how you stack up against others is completely fucking irrelevant, right? Because
Mm.
everyone's path is unique. And I don't stack myself up against anyone. I get frustrated that others are doing that are not as good as me, are doing better than me. And when I say not as good as me, I see a lot of people in the advisory world who are pretty crap, right? And I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to put down some of where my money comes from, but I do some work for the Big Four and some large accounting firms, and that call me in to do specialized projects. And when I look at the quality of the people they're sending out for billing, it's kind of like it's just disgusting. Right now, they do a lot of government
Yep.
work and I kind of sit there and I said, "You guys have just got no integrity, mate. These people need to pay someone. They may as well pay us." And it's like, oh, and that
Mm.
messes with my internal chakras, right? Um,
Yep.
but so I sometimes sit there and go, well, why am I not having? Why am I not getting that flow of customer work that's going to other people? And I hate seeing people getting taken for a ride and getting ripped off, and how many people have come into our program, Simone, who the
Mm.
first thing they say after getting into the second, third week is, "Oh my God, I've done so many other programs," and so of course you have. I've done so
Yep.
many other programs, but this is just so different. Even though the content might
Yeah.
be similar, it's so different. And the reason why it's different is because we really dial in, right? Like we really dial in because all of us, our team, want an outcome for our clients. We want
Exactly.
an
Yeah.
outcome. We want a result. No, it's not about money. Like we have plenty of money. The money's not the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
For us, it's the outcome. And why have we gone out and built our customers on demand program which is for anybody,
Mm.
anyone who needs a fine tune. I don't care whether you are um, a hundred grand a month business, or whether you are a $1,000 a month, you know, startup side hustle. The fundamentals that you learn in that program is going to transform you because you make your money back. I mean, it's $110 a week program,
Yep.
and and again, I sit there sometimes and I go, why don't we have 1,000 people a week signing up to this thing? And then that's because there's all these other fucking variables to it, right? Like, so
Yeah.
it's not just how good you are. So you can't just go, oh my God, look how good we are, and yet we're not getting the role. Clearly, we're not doing something right along the way, and so we go and
Mm.
work on it. And the great thing about us is that we go and work on it, and then teach our clients what we did. And so
Yeah.
it's constant. Everyone's winning. It's this win-win philosophy, right? So don't compare yourself to others. You got to set yourself really realistic goals. Okay, if you are suffering from imposter syndrome, you got to set yourself realistic goals. Don't say I want to be, let's say you're an aspiring footballer, and you're 16 years old and Real Madrid still hasn't signed you, and you're not going to, and you always wanted to be Cristiano Ronaldo. Like, you've got to be bloody realistic, right? The Cristiano Ronaldo was conditioned and born in his cot with a soccer ball. So was Lionel
Mm-hmm.
Messi. I mean, these guys have lived and breathed football their entire life. What are the sacrifices you make? Now you're still at the corner block with your mates at the deli or the milk bar having a smoke. Well, of course you're not going to get there, right? So you got to set
Mm.
yourself realistic goals, okay? And if you're going to compare yourself to the number one person in the industry that you're trying to tap into, then you might be setting yourself up for failure, right? Does
Yeah.
that make sense? So be realistic.
Absolutely.
Who are the people underneath that you can aspire to be first? Beat them. And this is the technique that I did. I didn't go and say, I want to be that person. I'm like, okay, I want to be there, but who's along the way that I need to get past? If I've got to win a marathon, I've got to get past a shitload of runners. So I
Mm-hmm.
make the runner in front of me my first target. My second target is in the next runner until I get eventually to the third. And so then you build your training regime around that. Now, clearly, I'm not a runner. Okay, so that's not a great analogy to use. And then probably the last one, the last thing that I encourage everyone to do, and I mentioned it earlier, is celebrate your success. Get into
Mhm.
a habit of celebrating your success. We do this exercise in our Evolve program every 4 weeks. And then every 90 days, we build game plans that have success celebration matrices, don't we? So, we're constantly saying to people, okay, book, what are you going to do? If you succeed this quarter, what are you going to do with your family? What are you going to do on your own? What are you going to do? And then there's people that have goals such as I'm going to celebrate by buying myself a new Rolex. And that's
Mhm.
25,000. I when I went out and worked with my coach, I put down that I'm finally going to put an order in on my Ferrari. You know, um,
Mm.
and I say that now, and I can actually finally say that with some conviction. Whereas before I kind of like, oh no, I don't really want it, can't fit in it. Well, I'm driving a Skoda Saloon at the moment here, and it's very low to the bloody ground. For some reason, the SUV that I ordered, the Volvo CX-90, was not available. So to fill all their bags, I had to get a Skoda Saloon. Actually, really nice car. And it's very low to the ground. I'm like, well, I can slide in it. And Lucy's like, you can. I said, that's it. No more excuses now. Right. So, but again, it's about celebrating that success. Now, for me, in order to put that final order in for that Ferrari, it is a monumental goal. But I have four micro goals
Mhm.
underneath that. Does that make sense? So, for me, in
Yeah.
order to make that final acquisition, that's only going to come once I've done these four other celebrations. And so I've already got two of those celebrations complete. The next two are a little bit more challenging. Um, but, we're not far away. We're never far away from achieving our goals. It's the fine tuning, the experimentation that happens every day. And I think finally, just be prepared to fail. It's okay to fail, and
Mm.
as long as you're failing forward, you're winning. And I think, Simone, that's really all the tips and tricks that I've got up my sleeve that I think will help people. And maybe we need to change it. The time. What time is it in Australia at the moment?
Well, in Sydney, it's just gone 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so
Yeah,
3:05.
surprisingly, we've got
Yeah,
so many people watching, and we're not even on LinkedIn because the thing it's now had 2 weeks in a row where it just won't stream
just won't
to
connect.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's true.
So
Mhm.
we'll have to resolve that when I get back in a couple of
Yes.
weeks' time. But yeah, I think that
Well,
that,
Christian
that really
Novelty,
sums
that
it
was
up.
amazing. I think there's so much to take away from that. Anyone who has only caught a part of this, I encourage you to go back and watch it from the start and just really unpack those three questions, which had so much involved in there. And I will certainly be reflecting on that for myself. So thank you so much for sharing your journey in such a vulnerable way. It does make a difference to how you can reflect on things yourself when you're hearing it specifically as someone's experience rather than just trying to learn it from a book or watching a video or something like that. So, and thank you again for being here with us live. I did want to pre-record these so we didn't annoy you on your holidays, but you insisted that we were coming live. The internet's held in for us, so thank you, Christian, for your time, your insights as always, and we'll be back next Tuesday with the hot seat.
My pleasure, Simone. And yeah, thanks everyone. It brings me a lot of joy that I can share some of this very vulnerable stuff sometimes with you guys. But I think if I I got to fulfill my purpose in life, and that is to transform the life of one person each day at least. And hopefully, one of you has had that experience today, and you're able to go and take the next step. Then by all means, please do it. I encourage you to be brave. I encourage you to be courageous, and step up. I think everyone else has left the lounge finally. After maybe I'm the one that's become louder than everybody else. Maybe they were like, let's run to our therapist after hearing all of that imposter syndrome. Maybe they heard, oh, you know what, Simone, I just realized maybe they heard me talk about, how I was self sabotaging myself through the early hours of the night. That's when they scattered out of here.
It took off. They're like, what's that guy doing in the corner over there? We're out of here.
Yeah, yeah. So that's
Christian
good. All right.
Lavalsi, have an amazing time. Have a wonderful holiday, and we will see you very, very soon.
Thank you. I'm just trying to work out. Oh, no, I have to press the button.
Working with Christian is a game changer. Hi, I'm Adrian Lee from GrowthLink Coaching and Consulting. I started working with Christian in August 2020 as his LinkedIn growth consultant. We worked together on his LinkedIn brand for about 12 months before becoming business partners in Growth Outsourced late 2021. Christian is a hidden genius. He helped me break through a significant financial target by restructuring my growth consulting online business offer. I don't know of any one person who can give you so much focus, clarity, and structure to live your purpose and get shit done. He holds you accountable to your words and gives you the tough love when you need it. I love his no BS approach to business and life. Everyone needs a Christian Lavolsi in their life. Do whatever you have to work with Christian. This is just the beginning for us, and I am super pumped to continue growing together. Thanks again, Christian.
Are you ready to start taking action on your business? Would you like to spend more time with your family? Then call 1300-643-229 and start building momentum right now. I know you're busy. In fact, you are so busy that you don't have time to work on your business or yourself. Often tossing and turning at night, worrying about the how-tos and the cash flow. How on earth can you possibly get off the hamster wheel so that you can take a helicopter view to see where you'll be in 90 days, 1 year, or 3 years from now? In this program, I will take you from sleepless nights to blissful sleep. You'll have more time with your family and you will have the clarity and direction so you can grow and flourish. Call 1300-643-229 now and start building momentum.